Hello everyone. We are starting with this chapter magnetism and matter in this video, and we have already done the fourth chapter moving charges and magnetism. And in this video we will be learning a few topics which will be related to this chapter, and I'm starting with a very basic topic which is the properties of a bar magnet. Now let us say that this is a bar magnet and I have suspended it freely. So the first property that a bar magnet shows is that when it is freely suspended, it automatically aligns itself in the geographic north-south direction. Then the like poles of a magnet will always repel each other, and unlike poles always attract each other. This is a property that you all know. Then there is a third property, that if there is a magnet and you cut it into two parts, then it will not happen that the north pole will get separated from the south pole. So the other poles will automatically appear here and you will get two magnets. So the third property is that the magnetic monopoles do not exist. That it is not possible that you will have a magnetic north pole and you will have an isolated magnetic south pole. Then after these properties of the bar magnet, we will learn about the properties of the magnetic field lines, and for that we will draw the magnetic field lines of a bar magnet. Magnetic field lines of a bar magnet. Now if you have a bar magnet, suppose this is a bar magnet, and we start keeping a magnetic compass needle at any one point. Let us mark one point here. And we start keeping the magnetic compass needle over here, then the north pole of the compass needle will keep on pointing at different points. You keep on plotting them, and this is how the path of the magnetic compass needle will be. And if you join this, if we join this, we will get a curve like this. Similarly, take another point over here, we'll get a curve like this. Take a point over here, we get a curve like this. Take a point over here, we get a curve like this. So this is how we can plot the magnetic field lines around a bar magnet. And since the north pole was always pointing away, so the direction will be shown like this, away from the north pole and going into the south pole. So this is the pattern of the magnetic field lines around a bar magnet, and this can also be seen by just sprinkling some iron fillings near the bar magnet. So they all will arrange themselves in the pattern which has been shown over here. But here we are going to learn some basic properties of the magnetic field lines. So the first property that you can write down is that magnetic field lines start from the north pole and they reach the south pole, but they do not end at the south pole. So if there is a provision that we can go inside the south pole, then we will find a magnetic field line like this, which means that magnetic field lines always form closed loops. They always form closed loops, right? So unlike what you have learned in the first chapter electrostatics, that the electric field line will start from the positive charge and it will end at the negative charge, here it is not so. The magnetic field lines, they form closed loops, right? So they do not start from anywhere and they do not end anywhere. They form closed loops. Okay, but outside the magnet it will appear as if it is starting from the north pole and ending at the south pole, like this. Then the second property is that if you draw a tangent at any point, suppose this is a point and we draw a tangent here. Suppose this is a point and we draw a tangent here. Suppose this is a point on the magnetic field line and we draw a tangent here. So this is suppose the first tangent, second tangent, third tangent. So all the tangents that I have drawn, they will show the direction of the magnetic field at these points. So a tangent, so the second point is a tangent drawn to the magnetic field line at any point gives the direction of the magnetic field at that particular point. Then the third property is that more are the number of magnetic field lines per unit area, stronger is the magnetic field. More are the number of magnetic field lines in a unit area, stronger is the magnetic field. So if you take the same amount of area here, so lesser number of lines are enclosed in this area, so the magnetic field is weaker here. So magnetic field is stronger in the region 1 and it is weaker in the region 2. And the last property is that no two magnetic field lines will intersect each other. It means that if first line is like this, it will not happen that the second line will go like this. It will go like this. It cannot happen. So they cannot have an intersection, because the point of intersection means that the magnetic field at this point, if I can draw two tangents at this point, one tangent can be drawn with the red curve and another tangent can be drawn with the blue curve. So two tangents means two directions of the magnetic field, which is not possible at one particular point. Hence intersection of two magnetic field lines cannot happen. So these are the properties of the magnetic field lines around a bar magnet. Then the third topic that you are going to learn just now is the equivalence of the magnetic field produced by a solenoid and that produced by a bar magnet. So you can write down the third topic, equivalence of the magnetic field produced by a solenoid and a bar magnet. So equivalence of the magnetic field produced by a solenoid and a bar magnet. Now, just now we have drawn the magnetic field around a bar magnet, and it was like this. So the magnetic field around the bar magnet is like this. And suppose we have a solenoid. Now this is a solenoid. I will have to draw it again because I am not getting enough space to draw the magnetic field lines. So let us say this is a solenoid. This one, a smaller one. And if I draw the magnetic field, suppose this is carrying current I, then the magnetic field produced by this solenoid is also like this. Although I have not shown the proper direction, but as per the direction of the loops, let us say this is the north and this is the south. And how is it produced? You all know that if this is the direction of the current flowing in the solenoid, then this end will become the north pole by the right hand thumb rule. So the magnetic field is like this. Here we have a north pole and here we will have a south pole, and lines will be emanating from north pole and entering into the south pole like this. So the magnetic field pattern of a bar magnet is exactly the same as is produced by a solenoid. Now we have seen this pattern by putting the iron fillings and all, and we want to prove it mathematically. So I'm just erasing this, and I will be proving it mathematically also, that the magnetic field at any point produced by the bar magnet is exactly the same that is produced by an equivalent solenoid. So for this is a solenoid carrying current I. Suppose this is the center of the solenoid. Let us mark it as O. Let this end be minus L and this end be L. So 2L is the length of the solenoid. Let us further take, because there are many circular loops in the solenoid, so let us say this is one circular loop. Assume R is the radius of one circular loop. Okay, R is the radius. Now you have this as the axis of the solenoid. Okay, so this is the axis. Let us say that you want to find out, so this was the center. You want to find out what is the magnetic field at the point marked here. What is the magnetic field at this point due to the solenoid? So we are trying to find out magnetic field at a point, and this point is very, very far off. Let us say this distance is suppose x, and x is much, much greater than L. Means that the solenoid is very small and the point where you are trying to find out the magnetic field is very far off. So what are we going to find out is magnetic field due to the solenoid at any axial point far off from the center of the solenoid. Far off from the center of the solenoid. Okay, so this is what we are going to find out. Now already we have done some assumptions. We have taken this as x, the radius of the circular loop as r. We have taken 2L to be the length of the solenoid. There is only one thing that we have not taken. You can write it down. Let n be the total number of turns of the solenoid, and n by 2L will be the number of turns per unit length, because its length is 2L. So number of turns per unit length, let us say we define by n. So you can write down number of turns per unit length. Right? So this is what it is. Now in order to find out the expression, we will assume a small portion here, a small portion of the solenoid, right? A small strip of the solenoid. For example, this is a solenoid, so you take my finger as this portion. So one strip like this, a small portion of the solenoid we have chosen, right? And because of all the circular loops which are here in this part, we are trying to find out how much will be the magnetic field due to this small portion here, and then we will integrate the whole expression to find out the net magnetic field produced by the solenoid at this point. So this is what we are going to do. I am erasing this and I will do the derivation here. Now there is one result that you all have to just recall from your previous video, that if we have a circular loop which has a radius r, it carries a current I, then at any axial point which is x distance away from the center, the magnetic field at this point is given by the expression mu naught I r square divided by 2 r square plus x square raised to the power 3 by 2. So this is what we have already learned in the previous chapter. Now we are going to use this expression to find out the magnetic field due to the whole solenoid at the far off point. Now just see how we will do this. Now this is the magnetic field due to one loop. Now how many loops, circular loops are here in this portion? So if n are the number of turns per unit length, let us assume that dx is this width, right? Dx. So n into dx will be the number of turns which will be lying in this small portion. So if one turn produces this much field, then these many turns will produce into n dx field at this point, correct? Now, so if this is the field produced by this small portion over here, and we have already taken that x is much greater than the length of the solenoid, and also, so you also have to assume that x is much greater than length of the solenoid because we are dealing with a far off point. Also x is much greater than radius of the solenoid. So considering this, the denominator can be expressed as mu naught I r square divided by 2x cube only, because we can ignore r square from the denominator. So now I am writing this magnetic field B as dB, because this is a small magnetic field which is produced by a small portion of the solenoid at this particular point. Okay, so I have changed this B to dB. Now, in order to find out what will be the magnetic field due to the whole solenoid, we will have to integrate the expression. Okay, and this was multiplied already by n dx, like this. And the limits of the integration will be from minus L to L. So from minus L to L. So now I am erasing this. So this is minus L to L. Now we will take out all the constants outside the integral mark. So mu naught is a constant. The current that is flowing is a constant. Radius of the solenoid is constant, one circular turn. Then this x is also constant, because the point where you want to find out the magnetic field, you already know that point is fixed. So this is constant. The number of turns per unit length, because that is a kind of a particular type of solenoid you have taken, so n is also fixed, and we are left with dx only from minus L to L. And this integration, we very well know, integration of dx will be x, limits are minus L to L, so putting upper limit, subtracting lower limit from it, answer is 2L. So this portion has been solved like this. Okay, now if I just erase this, so what is it that I get? Integration of dV is now B net at this point. So this will be equal to mu naught I r square divided by 2x cube n into 2L. Now n was n by 2L into 2L. So this reduces to n only, which are the number of turns in the whole of the solenoid, substituting for n. So we get B as mu naught I n r square divided by 2x cube. Now you can multiply and divide it by 2 pi. Okay, just to reduce it to a familiar expression, we are multiplying and dividing it by 2 pi. So what is it that we get? We get mu naught I pi n, mu naught I pi r square into 2 divided by 4 pi x cube. Further, pi r square is the area, so you get mu naught n I a 2 divided by 4 pi x cube. Now NIA, you all know, is the magnetic moment, so 2m mu naught by 4 pi x cube. So this is the resulting expression. Now for a solenoid at any far off point, the magnetic field is this, and when we tried to find out the magnetic field produced by a bar magnet at any far off point, right, x, but this obviously this magnet should have the same magnetic moment m, and the magnetic moment of a bar magnet is calculated like this. You know what is the pole strength? So let us say Qm is the pole strength, and let us say 2L is the length of the bar magnet. Then Qm into 2L is the magnetic moment of a bar magnet. So if the magnetic moment of the bar magnet is m, and we want to find out how much is the magnetic field due to the bar magnet at any axial point distant x from the center of the magnet, so the result will be exactly the same when we will calculate it. So this just gives us the equivalence between a solenoid and a bar magnet, that both of them produce the same magnetic field on the axial point. And then there is one more expression, that if we want to find out how much is the magnetic field on the equatorial line, you all know what is an equatorial line? So this was the axial line and this is the equatorial line. The magnetic field produced by a solenoid on the equatorial line. The expression of magnetic field is mu naught by 4 pi with a negative sign m divided by x cube. Okay, so this is the expression for the magnetic field produced by a solenoid on the equatorial line. And suppose this is the solenoid. So you are finding out the magnetic field at a distance x on the equatorial line. So this is the expression. And if you replace this solenoid by a bar magnet having the same magnetic moment m, you will get the same magnetic field produced by the bar magnet here. So this completely shows that a solenoid and bar magnet, they produce a similar magnetic field, right? So this is a great discovery that a current carrying solenoid behaves exactly in its field pattern as a bar magnet. Now after this we are going to learn one more thing, and you can note down the topic. I am just erasing it. So this is the fourth topic that we are going to learn today. The topic is, if you have a small magnetic needle and you place it in the magnetic field, suppose this is the uniform magnetic field represented by parallel lines, and you have a magnetic needle, right? So now I am not drawing a complete magnetic needle, I am showing it only by a line. So let us say this is a magnetic needle, and since it is a magnetic needle, it will have two poles. Say this is the north pole, this is the south pole. Now the north pole will try to align itself in the direction of the magnetic field. The south pole will try to move away like this, and if this is the center of the magnetic needle, it will try and rotate. So what we are going to find out is how much torque is experienced by a magnetic needle in the presence of in the presence of uniform magnetic field, right? So how much torque is experienced? This is what we want to find out. Now let us say that the length of the magnetic needle is 2L, and Qm is the pole strength of the poles, the north pole and the south pole. Then this line indicates, suppose theta is the angle between the magnetic field and the orientation of the magnetic needle, then torque is always equal to force into force arm. This is exactly what we have done in electrostatics also. A dipole was kept in a uniform electric field, and we tried to find out how much is the electric field, how much is the torque experienced by the dipole in the presence of the electric field. So in the similar pattern is here also, we are replicating it, just we are taking the poles as Qm and the distance as 2L. So force that will be experienced will be Qm into B, and the force arm is obviously this. So this one is the force arm, and this is equal to 2L sine theta. You all know that if this is theta, then this will be theta. So this will be 2L sine theta, cos theta, and this will be 2L sine theta. So this is the perpendicular arm between these two forces. So we will write down 2L sine theta. Just now I told you Qm into 2L. A moment before I told you this is the magnetic moment of the magnet. So we can write down mb sine theta, right? And mb sine theta, the direction of the torque is given by their cross product. So we write down torque is equal to m cross b. So whenever there is a magnetic needle which is in the presence of a uniform magnetic field, it experiences a torque equal to m cross b. Now, if we want to rotate it by a small angle d theta, then we will have to do some work. So I'm just erasing this. You note it down. Torque is equal to m cross b. Note down work done in rotating the magnetic needle in the presence of the magnetic field. So work done. Now work done is always equal to tau d theta, right? Now torque we have already done is m cross b, so you will write down mb sine theta d theta. Now this is a small work done because you are giving it a small rotation d theta. So mb sine theta d theta is the small work done. So complete work done will be integration of this. So total will be integration of this. So net work done W will be equal to minus MB, because M and B are constant, we will take them outside, and integration of sine theta d theta will be cos theta with a negative sign. So minus cos theta. So this is how much is the work done when you rotate a dipole, and all the work that we do against the magnetic field to rotate it, that will be stored in it in the form of potential energy. So the potential energy stored in the dipole is minus mb cos theta. Obviously I have not taken any limits of integration, so we will have a constant here, but that constant is taken as 0 because the value of the constant depends upon the 0 of the potential energy that you assume in physics. And here we have taken that initially this is at this position, that is perpendicular to the magnetic field, and at this position the potential energy is, we have considered to be 0. So this was the constant, and this has been taken as 0 here. So we need not write anything, we will only write potential energy of the system when we rotate it by a small angle d theta will be given by minus mb cos theta. Now let us say you are given some situation that you are rotating it from the situation of a stable equilibrium to an unstable one. Now you can understand what will be the stable equilibrium position when it is already aligned with the magnetic field, right? When the magnetic needle is resting like this, it is in a position of stable equilibrium. And when you make it rotate and make it anti-parallel to the magnetic field. That will be the position of the unstable equilibrium. So somebody can ask you how much will be the work done in rotating a magnetic needle from the position of stable to the most unstable position. So then you will have to do from 0 degree to 180 degree integration. So cos theta at 180 will be -1. So this becomes mv only. Then negative of this will be minus of mv again. So you get 2 mv. So this is the work done in rotating a magnetic needle from the position of most stable position to the most unstable position. So this is how it is calculated. Thank you for watching this video, and in the next video we will learn what will be the time period of oscillation of this needle if you rotate it a little bit and then just leave it to oscillate. So what will be the time period of oscillation, and then we also want to know a lot about Earth's magnetism. That will be learned in the next videos. Thank you.